Love.
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 Sex.
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 Sex. Sex.
Sex.
Sex.
Damnation.
Dance.
Tamarka.
Danger. Darkness. दिमाग खराब है. दारू.
Desperados.
Destruction.
This is the LSDcast, India's first podcast about love, sex, and dating.
And it's time for the LSDcast with your host. This is Prem, and we have the lovely Rogue on the other side. Rogue, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and the lovely Rogue is clearly hosting a different show because I'm on the LSDcast. I didn't go to America and develop an accent.
Oh, so that's how it's gonna be, huh? America versus India. Okay, fine. Everybody, you guys are listening on the LSDcast.
Do it again. Where are we? What are we listening to?
LSDcast.
Well done.
Thank you.
We are going to trump this. Right, anyhow, let's not talk about America anymore.
No, let's not talk about Trump, basically.
Yeah, let's talk about love, sex.
And dating. So, Rogue, how has your week been? Anything exciting? Something we should know about, perhaps?
Lots of stuff in my head and lots of stuff online if you guys check our Twitter feed. But to report, not really. I had a conversation with somebody on the phone off of an online dating app, and it was kind of lame. So I don't think I'm going to continue with that person. Actually, we haven't talked at all since then, even by message. So that's good, right? Like we've eliminated somebody.
Yes. Absolutely. We get time on this platform to actually catch up as brother, sister.
That's right. And what about you?
My week has been okay. It's been very busy with work, and I would say that it's been more work than play. So I haven't really gone out and let my hair down.
Well, at this point, your hair is kind of growing up, you guys. Graham's hair is doing its own thing. It's like ready to have its own name because it's entering like at a separate time than him, and not to mention doing whatever it's doing in different directions.
It's true. I won't even deny it. It's kind of getting out of control.
Yeah. Why are you growing it again? It's looking like a fro. Not that I have anything against fros, except I know you can do better than this look.
It's, I got sick of having short hair, so now I wanted something different.
All right. We'll just let it be. People, since we're not posting pictures, you just have to imagine this Indian dude with a fro.
Hello, Rogi. Can we stop talking about my hair and can we get on with the show? Because I think that's why our listeners are tuned in.
Well, your hair could have its own show at this point. Yeah, sure. Okay, come on. Let's do it. So, what do we have coming up? Tell us.
So, we have a question about hickeys. Rogue, what are your views on hickeys, if I may ask?
Wouldn't you like to know? And I also want to say that we actually have a guest on this show and we're discussing a pretty serious topic. So, it's not all fun and love bites. It's also a little more serious stuff coming up. So stick around, guys. We're going to be talking to a criminologist right after this break.
Hi, this is Michael Burns from Tall Tales Takeaway, India's first storytelling podcast where we feature true stories by people just like you. Find us anywhere where podcasts are found.
And we are back. So, Rogue, before we actually get into the whole hickey scenario, we did episode 47, and I had mentioned that I'm gonna punch my sister Rogue.
Yeah, and I said something about it being a rum punch and how I like rum punches and stuff like that.
Yeah, but then you remember that you said something towards the end of the show as well.
That's right. Actually, I threatened to punch you because you were being really daft about one of the questions.
Exactly. So when we got finished with the show, we actually were thinking about how casually we use terms of violence with each other in just like day-to-day conversation.
Actually, we don't use it a lot. It just happened that day, and I think we were primed for it. But yeah, it was very casual. It was joking. Obviously, we're not going to hit each other.
So, Rogue, if you remember, like the way our mom raised us was that she used to always say that you always fight with your mouth. You always fight with words. You don't fight with your fists or your hands.
With anybody.
And it was inculcated at a very early stage in our lives. So we obviously refrained from getting into fights. We of course had so many altercations like any siblings do, but we never really had any hatapai as such.
And we've never seen it. Like we've never seen violence at all. So when we use these terms, we're clearly joking. This is how we were brought up. And so when we listened to this last episode, we were both kind of surprised that it came up not once, but twice that we were joking about violence.
And that too so casually.
Well, that is part of it. It was really casual. It was jokey, but it was a threat, right? Kind of. It was mean. So we wanted to talk to an expert about whether these terms, these words that people throw around that are threatening, can actually be perceived as threatening. Are these a problem? Is this a sexism problem? Is this a problem in relationships? When can threatening words equal abuse? Like, this is a huge, huge question.
So we actually had a very interesting guest who joined us for our segment, and she happens to be a criminologist. Wow, isn't that amazing that on the LSD cast we have Rashi Vidyasagar, who is a criminologist who joined us on this segment of our show. And she works to sensitize people with policemen, policewomen, social workers about domestic violence. And also violence in relationships between men and women, men and men, and women as well.
So Prem's not in the segment, but Rashi is, and this is a conversation she and I had a few days ago. Rashi, welcome to the LSD cast. We're so happy to have you on the show.
Hi, Rogue. It's nice to be here.
So let's jump right in because we're a short podcast and we want to get to the meat of the matter. So last week, Prem and I were joking with each other about punching each other, and realized, of course, that it was just stupid. So let's get the bigger picture from you. Is something like that, like a verbal, playful threat, actually something to worry about? When is it an alarm? When is it a red flag?
So I think it really matters on how the person who's getting the threat feels at the end of it. So maybe once or twice to say the person might not feel threatened or might take it as a joke. But the moment that you start feeling threatened, that this threat can actually be serious or that it will actually turn into physical violence is when it is abuse. So it's a lot to do with the impact of the violence rather than what the intent might be. So that's one thing that's important.
Oh, interesting. So like if the guy says, "Oh, well, I was just joking," then you're mitigating the intent.
Absolutely. So I think that that's why also communication makes a huge difference, because is it a safe relationship for you to say so? So even if I feel threatened in the relationship, if the guy's intent is not to make me feel threatened, and I can communicate that openly, that means it's a violence-free relationship. Then you can move on from the incident. But if you don't feel safe enough to say that to your partner, then there's something more. Then that stems from a deeper problem in the relationship, which is violence and abuse in itself. That you're not feeling safe enough to say it.
Okay. So how often, in your experience or like in your research, has this kind of verbal abuse actually then moved forward into physical abuse? Is there a correlation?
Correct. So basically, when we were looking at research and we're trying to figure out, even from our own cases that we deal with, how does violence come about in relationships? And we found out that very often there isn't one type of violence that occurs. There's a complete various kinds of violence. So there are different manipulations used to kind of abuse the person. So emotional violence is one of those things that are an early stage violence that can happen, that can get manifested into other sorts as time goes on.
My goodness. So right. So in a relationship where there's a threat, and then if there is actual violence, like if a partner chokes a partner or gets really angry, then Is that the first stop on the way to like DV, domestic violence? Should, let's say in this case...
So I think it's already DV, right? I mean, if you're choking somebody, then that's already domestic violence. So it's already there. It's already at a space where your life has been threatened.
So do you think there's a continuum, or is it just a yes or a no?
So there is definitely a continuum on where, but the continuum is decided by the person themselves. Because, for example, a lot of women have come to me and said, he used to always hit me in private in the privacy of a house, but when it went outside the house is when I couldn't take it anymore. Or
Yikes.
that he's always hit me, but today he abused my family, and that's what hurt me, and that's why I want to take action. So this continuum is decided by individual women. It's not a continuum that research can set for itself or that practice can set for itself. So what matters is the experiences of women and how women experience this differently and what values they assign to this individually. But I think that if there are certain things that lethality matters, fatality of something, so if your partner is choking you, even if he means to only scare you, he doesn't know how hard to choke you or how light to choke you. It's not something that one can decide, and if it's in a fit of anger, definitely not. So I definitely think that if somebody is being choked, it's life threatening, so some action needs to be taken, definitely.
Okay. So, I mean, this is obviously outside of the realm of like sex games where it's mutual.
Sure,
And
of
the girl
course. So
wants to be
consent.
choked, or the boy wants to be choked.
So I think the interesting part, because even when 50 Shades of Grey came, there was a lot of discussion around BDSM versus, abuse. They're two different things. The one thing that matters in both of them is consent. One has it and one doesn't have it. So anything that happens...
And there's a power thing, right? If one of the partners...
Absolutely.
And it goes both ways. I totally know a couple of cases where the perpetrator of the domestic violence was the girl. This is in a hetero sexual couple.
Correct.
But the girl was totally threatening this boys, different girls. And they were brought up never ever to raise their voices, let alone their hands on anybody.
Correct. So one thing is definitely that these cases are highly rare where women are abusing men in the house or in domestic relationships. However, it's not to say that it doesn't happen.
And it happens in gay couples as well?
Absolutely. And that's one of the issues that comes up in a setting that is so homophobic, is that
right.
Where do you go to if you're facing violence from your marriage or your relationship? If for heterosexual women.
Correct. I mean, if you're already living in sort of secret,
absolutely,
then how do you actually own up to being abused?
Exactly. Women from heterosexual couples have they have very little support from their own families, because either they've once you believe that you've gotten married, then you can't come back, or if you're in dating relationship, then again, just by dating you have kind of done the unthinkable, so you should pay the brunt of whatever comes out of the relationship. So there's such little support from families that we can only imagine how it must be to be in a homosexual relationship and having no support of that sort.
So in another episode, I'm going to have you come back and explain to us why women or men in abusive relationships stay, because I think that is a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely.
But what is someone supposed to do if they are in a place where they're scared or being threatened or are already being abused in a relationship?
So it's easy to say that it's to get out of the relationship, which you yourself put it very well, that it's not that easy, and it's a completely different kind of understanding, or it's huge calculations to make before you leave a relationship, especially if it's a committed long-term relationship. But I think
especially in Indian
societies. But I think the easiest to do is to kind of go out and seek help. A lot of violence, especially emotional and mental and psychological violence, erodes your self-worth so much that you feel like you can't do anything anymore. So even the help-seeking behavior kind of reduces, because you don't think anybody can help you or that you're not worthy of help. So I think to get over those is very difficult, but to just take that first step and make a make a call to a friend, to make a call to a service, anything that goes, just make that first call and receive the help. You like is believe. I think the first step is to believe that you are deserving of more. And
I actually feel like what you're saying makes me think of like the Alcoholics Anonymous, where the first step is to say, I'm an alcoholic, where you say,
absolutely,
I am a victim and I will be a survivor.
Exactly. So that's one thing, and to realize that none of this was your fault, because there's so much of blame, there's so much of name calling that happens in abusive relationships. It's not the physicality that matters as much as the emotional belief that you can't get out of it. You just feel trapped. And that's actually the violence. There is a theory called a cycle of violence, which believes that, you can be manipulated to staying back. So I think that to recognize to recognize this pattern and to get out of it is so important.
All right, so let's backtrack. This got really, really heavy.
Yeah, it did.
Now, if somebody lightly says to you, I'm going to punch you or I'm going to beat you, and they mean it like a joke.
Correct.
Is it okay to be really sensitive, or should you just brush it away? Like, what is the PC thing to do?
Yes. So I think every woman has their own way to negotiate this. For me, it started off with, it's not funny. You can't say that to me. It's not acceptable. And then to continue to be jokey or friendly with the person. So the person gets the message that, I will take you seriously only if you take me seriously, or if you take what I feel seriously. But it's also about, I think there's a lot of pressure on young women to kind of fit into these norms of finding things funny. So they're supposed to find catcalling funny, or they're supposed to, it's just a joke. I'm just, you're just...
you should be flattered.
Yeah.
I'm giving you attention.
Exactly. Or even...
that you didn't ask for.
And even calling other women ugly. So, I mean, if I find it uncomfortable, it's not okay for me to say it at the first go. So, so there's a lot of... So I think that women need to start calling out on such behavior. Men need to start calling out other men on such behavior, because very rarely does this happen in closed spaces. So if you see that a couple who is started to date where there's something like this, if you can just step up and say, it's not funny to say that to her, and just support other women who are going through this, or even anybody who's going through a difficult time, to just be there. So that's very important, I think.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I hope our listeners are able to take this and use this in their lives, even if it's not about them directly, but even if they witness something. So words matter, guys, and they translate into action, as Rashi has clearly pointed out. So Rashi, if anybody wants to reach you directly, can they, or do you only work with organizations?
So I personally work with organizations, but given how social media has reached out, I do take a few personal cases as well, or at least direct them directly to places. So I'm available on Twitter, and there my email ID is out there, so if anybody feels like contacting me, I'm there.
Okay, so I'll add that later.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rashi. Thanks so much for joining us, and we absolutely love you, so we will have you back pretty soon.
Thank you so much. It's great being here.
Wow, now that was very heavy. I mean, it's only heavy because, of course, there was a bit of prem missing in action. But I think that was very informative. And Rashi, thank you so much for being on this show. So insightful, and we really loved having you being part of this.
Yeah, and this is such a huge topic, so of course we're going to have her back. So stick around, we're going to have hickeys after this little break.
Find the LSDcast online on Twitter and Facebook, and on iTunes and the Google Play Store.
And we're back, and it's time for our sex question.
Sex.
Yeah, our sex question. So we have Manjuri, who writes in saying that she met this guy on Tinder and she's been out with him twice. And this is the second time that she's woken up in the morning and she found a hickey on her neck. So in her text, she messaged and said that, dude, you left a hickey on me and it's not cool. And he wrote back with a wink saying that, oh, it's just a mark. I was leaving a part of me on you. Now, her question to us is that through texting, she can't be quite clear on putting her views across, but she's absolutely not cool with anyone leaving any kind of mark on her. So how can she go about it without making it a huge deal? One, because she doesn't want to see him again. And two, she wants him to understand that this is her body and he needs to respect that. He can't just go ahead and do things that he wants to. He needs to understand that there's a certain line that he cannot cross.
Oh man, so this kind of question makes me sad because clearly we're all in this strange world where we can't say what we mean when we mean it and how we want to say it because there's just so much writing on it. And it sounds like most girls don't have the self-confidence to just put it out there and let the chips fall where they will, right?
Yeah, and I think, Majuri, you spelled it out yourself.
Yeah, so clearly.
Yeah, it seems that you know how to hold your own. You're a strong, confident young woman of today's time, and if you don't like something, you need to be assertive about it. And then you should not care on how it's going to land. Remember, I've always said this in pretty much so many of our episodes about there's always a way to convey stuff, to put things across. And I think that in this case, you shouldn't hold back. You should just
right.
You should just call him out and say it how it is. And if you don't like something, you don't like something.
Right. Hold on. Prem. So what you said there actually is crucial. The question is how to be assertive without coming across as aggressive or then falling on the other side, which is you hold back and then sort of get wimped out and people do what they want to do with you without your consent.
Well, it's very simple. You sit him down and you give him some food. And then you talk really sweetly and you explain to him.
So, look, you're on a Tinder date, really? Are you in a position where you can sit somebody down and give them a manual?
I was being sarcastic. No, fuck that. I mean, you don't like something, and just don't be rude about it. Don't scare him off. Just say that, hey, you know what? I like hanging with you. It's great, but can you please not do that because I just don't like it.
And then just say, his attitude is actually what's bothering me. Now, I don't know the full story. We only know what you've told us, but an attitude of like, haha, I just left my mark on you. That sends chills down my spine. It's like really objectifying somebody. I mean, should be if I'm putting words in your mouth here, but that kind of attitude where you feel like the guy feels entitled to do whatever he wants and it's cool because it's a joke or it's casual or it's a sign of possession is like run for the hills kind of scary to me.
I don't think it has to be that extreme run for the hills. I don't think we're there yet because he's just being a jock. He's just being a cool dude. Like, oh my God, look at me, man. I'm so cool. I can leave my mark on anyone. But if he's handled correctly, which he obviously is going to do, he's going to quickly like straighten up and sit correctly and be, he'll check himself and I can assure you at least 90% that he won't do it again. Because
so is it enough to just be told that, look, I don't like it, like stop, which obviously has happened, but it hasn't worked. It should be.
I think so because we're going to find out soon because she is going to tell him and then, hopefully, which I think he will stop because if he doesn't, then he's going to get the kick in his ass and that'll be the end of that.
Well, I hope so. Manjari, if he's not respectful of your wishes, then yeah, he does need a kick in the behind and to be sent off on his way. Because that's not cool. If you don't like something and somebody thinks it's like funny that you don't like it and continues to do it, please just walk away. You can do better.
Yeah, I agree.
So that was short and sweet. I think we're done. We've reached a consensus. But you know what we've got for you guys? We've got funny stories from Prem's brushes with Hickydom.
Yeah. Stick around and you'll get to hear it all.
So you already know you have to like us. No, love us. Show us your love by also sending questions and comments. Do you disagree with something we said? We want to hear from you. Go on, don't be shy.
And we're back.
Yes, we are.
So, Rogue, before I get into my little hickey story, weren't you going to tell us your opinion on hickeys?
I wasn't actually. I just said, wouldn't you like to know?
And the answer is yes, we would.
I don't know if okay, fine, I'll tell you. So I'm sure this is going to come as no surprise to anybody who's listened to the show before, but I am not a fan of hickeys, and I'll tell you why. So it has to do with middle school. I was barely a teenager, and one of my friends was already having sex, and she would come to school with hickeys, little scarves and concealer on them, and everybody knew that she was sexually active at whatever 14. And I think that because it was so negatively perceived, and she was totally flaunting it because she was doing this whole very bad girl rebelling sort of thing, that I sort of aligned myself with the I want to be neutral, but God, if this is the reaction you get from people, like slut shaming of the worst kind, I don't want it. So I think very early on, I had decided that I just never, ever, ever, ever want marks visible on me.
Makes sense. So I've been down the route where I have had a few, but there's one really, really funny incident. So this was when I was working in a advertising agency, and it was one of their parties, and I invited a friend of mine, just a dear friend of mine. And at that time, my mom and sister dear were pretty convinced that this girl had feelings for me. But of course, I was like, no, she's just a really good friend of mine. So,
Which sister is this? Me?
this is the one and only. So anyways, we were at this party, and my friend got super drunk. I ended up taking care of her. And then it reached a stage where she was hanging on to me.
How much did she drink?
Quite a few vodka sodas. She got really close and she started necking me. She started like trying to plant kisses on me, and then somewhere in the middle she bit me. Anyways, I didn't make much of it. I took her back to her house, went home, slept. When I woke up, I had a full-fledged mark on my neck. So I was meeting her for lunch the next day. Now, in the normal course of things, if I were to meet her for lunch and I reached there and she saw this mark on my neck, she would call me out on it right away and she'd go, "Oh my God, what's on your neck?" And I'd be like, you know what? It was you, idiot. But I knew that if she knew what she'd done, she would ignore it. And she did.
Like if she'd done it deliberately.
Yeah, so we went for lunch and she did not even look at my neck, and she did not even comment on it, and she just like went about everything casually.
She must have been so embarrassed. Poor thing.
Yeah, but it would have been nice to bury it there and then and laugh about it. Then it became a little...
Oh man, you're expecting too much maturity from somebody who's...
Yeah, we were kids. I mean, we were like 18 or 19 years old, so it's okay.
I mean, actually, even as an adult, as we just heard with Manjari, it's hard to say what you mean and ask for what you want and deal with your actions as a 19-year-old. Life is much harder, man.
It is.
It's so confusing. So are you guys still friends?
Yeah, we are.
So you guys never spoke about the hickey biting neck thing?
Never.
How
Never.
interesting. Well, such is life.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah. Exactly. But, and that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the show.
Yes, it's been interesting. I think for me. Okay, you guys, tell us what you think. LSDcast at sonolog.com. Twitter, we are tweeting all kinds of relationship, love, sex, intimacy things. On Facebook, and we'll catch you online or back here on your mobile phone or wherever you're listening.
Yep. Looking forward to hearing what you think and what you have to say. And of course, this is the platform where you can ask us anything you want, and we will try our best to give you the best answer possible.
Yay! So for now, it's Prem and Rogue saying bye until next time on the LSDcast.
Ciao, ciao.
You've been listening to the LSDcast, where it's all about love, sex, and desi dating, with your hosts, Prem and Rogue.
a Sonologue production.